Hi, my name is Kyle Kim from W Coding. I'm one of the two co-founders and the CEO. And W Coding is a global coding bootcamp located in Korea. And we are also a startup that helps other startups start up their business in Korea as well.
Hi, I'm Alex O, and I'm the CTO, and I help develop the courseware for W Coding. And so come check us out. I think the two things that W Coding provides that you can't get necessarily if you study alone, there's two things. I mean, the fact that you're alone, there's group work that you're missing out on, the group dynamics and the teamwork that really enhances your ability to function as a professional programmer. And the second thing is mentorship, access to someone who can help you grow and develop as a programmer. And so on the first point for group work, I think the ability to have a team that you can be answerable to have someone for whom that you are responsible and accountable to, I think will really help you develop. It gives you people who you can rely on when you have questions about different things that come up during the project. And as well, there's peer pressure. If you don't want to be the guy holding up the team. And so that kind of pressure behind you really pushes some people to try to do better than they normally would alone. Some of the other things that you get exposed to are other perspectives. When you are approaching a problem, you might get concentrate on one particular solution, but it's good to hear what other perspectives and other possible solutions are. And it's easier to do that when you have a team around you who can help you with those ideas. Another thing is tools. Working as a group, you're going to be introduced to new tools that you would not necessarily use alone. For example, when you use Git as source control, it's, you learn a couple skills when you're alone, but when things go wrong with Git and whatnot, it becomes much more easier to learn the fuller set of what Git is capable of doing. You also have project management tools and coordination tools, which you will find in the workplace, but is not necessarily something you would use when you work alone. Now, for mentorship, I think, a program like ours, you have access to a teacher with years of experience in a professional setting, which I think provides you with the ability to have someone tell you what's important and not important. Will tell you something that is a passing fad versus something that you're going to have to really pay attention to. And so to have that kind of person with that experience guide you through the learning process, I think it saves a lot of time, but also helps you kind of develop that sense as well as to knowing what is important and what is not. It's different from a college course in the sense that the goals are different. I think, for a college course, they want to teach you theory. It's something that it's going to take years to do. And I don't want to discount that. It's still something that's very important in the career of a developer. It's not necessarily something that I would say has to be done at the beginning. It can be spread out through your career. So it is vital knowledge that eventually you're going to want to learn. However, is it efficient if you don't already have the money or the time to do it? Is it the best way? And I don't think so. I think, a boot camp gives you a more economical, both in time and money, method of learning and picking up the skills that's required to be a professional developer. There's also the sense that because it's heavily based towards theory, you might not pick up necessarily the practical skills that you need to be a programmer right away and relevant for the job market. Absolutely. I think, our approach is that what you come in as a background is not going to be a measure of whether or not you can succeed. So not having that degree or not having that background is not going to hold you back from success. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean, for example, that we can't guarantee you that if you have a certain background that you will succeed. We can't also guarantee you that within a certain time frame that you're going to find a job. I think, that's a poor way to measure whether or not a boot camp is going to work for you, because if you start heading towards that kind of mentality, then you're going to find boot camps that just filter out those who they don't think will succeed. And so it's not really maybe a effective way for them. It may be people who might have succeeded without a boot camp anyways, right? Just so that the boot camp numbers can look good. We want to make sure that our programs are available for anybody who wants to have a chance and wants to learn. And that depends. We certainly have students who have gone through the program and have gotten jobs immediately afterwards and gotten offers immediately afterwards. However, that, like I said before, it's not really something that we want as a goal to guarantee that you will find a job afterwards. What we want as a program is to make sure that you will have the skills to learn, so that you, over the course of time, if you are not going to be one of those who are going to be immediately ready for the job market, that you are at least on your way to being ready for the job market. You have learned to learn, you have acquired the skills necessary to pick up new languages, new frameworks, and whatnot, so to make sure that you will be eventually ready. We approach learning more kind of like an art. It's something that you are going to have to, over time, develop as a skill. And so, in any kind of problem-solving methodology, you're going to have some part where you're going to be able to recognize a problem in and of itself, and then you have to find solutions and how many solutions there are to the problem, and then you have to find out how you want to execute the solutions that you have to the problem, and then you're going to have a period of review to see whether or not you did it the right way. Is there a better way? Is there another way to do it? And then you repeat that process over and over again so that you get better and better at this process. And we think that process also applies to programming. I think it's vital that you are able to have these skills and abilities to break down a program or problem and then solve that problem, revisit the problem, and back and forth. What we don't want to do is we don't want to sell ourselves as a kind of place where you learn a language, you do a project, and you put it on your resume, right? We don't want to be a program that is resume heavy. What we do want you to do is to learn how to learn. And we think that, with our program, that it's something that we want to focus on in terms of your development as a programmer. Our intensive program is actually based on the idea that web dev is something that you see every day and use every day. And so it's something that's very tangible to most students. We want you to learn through web dev the entire tech stack that is involved in web dev. And so it's a very approachable arena for a lot of programmers to start learning programming. And so you will have, for example, not only do you learn HTML and CSS, but you learn where the overlaps are. What can you do with HTML? What can you do with CSS? Where are the overlaps between the two where they both can do very similar things? Why would you use one over the other? And then you introduce JavaScript. How does JavaScript fit into this entire puzzle? Because there are a lot of overlaps on things that these things can do. And then you have the front-end, back-end issue, like what goes into front-end, what goes into background, what are the overlaps, how do they communicate, what are the languages involved, the formats involved, the protocols involved. It's not really as simple as I learn A and then I'm good to go. To be a really good programmer, be a really good developer, you need to know how to negotiate a lot of the ways that the tech comes together. And they complement each other as well as the way that they might interact with another. And so, as a last point, one of the things that we want to emphasize in our intensive program is that we want to introduce you to at least more than one language. What that language isn't quite as important. We get a lot of flack because ours is PHP. It's not necessarily something that I want to promote, saying that PHP is the next thing and it's awesome. The reason we chose PHP is because A, the job market, there is a lot of jobs with PHP, especially here in Korea. Two, it's something syntactically similar enough to JavaScript that it's not an intimidating language to learn as a second language after you've learned JavaScript earlier. And three, it's one of the most popular web development technologies. And it's, like I said, it's a low hurdle for you to learn that second language, for us to be able to help you learn and get over that hump of learning your second language. And certainly it's not going to be the last language you learn. In fact, we want to make sure that even after you learn JavaScript and PHP, that you learn more languages thereafter and give you the skills so you can pick up those languages and frameworks and technologies easily thereafter.
Well, it all kind of came naturally. I mean, it wasn't like I was born and then I was like, oh, I have to be in tech education. It wasn't nothing like that. But it really came naturally. I mean, for the longest part of my personal career, I worked as an English teacher for one of the biggest English academies, teaching test prep languages test prep subjects like TOEFL or TOEIC speaking and whatnot in my early 30s. And then I always had kind of the urge and the need and the want and the dream to be in tech, because I really enjoy a lot of the tech issues and the IT scene and whatnot. But I personally didn't have the education or the more importantly, like the degree to actually be in tech, basically. However, there were, like myself, I saw many people, especially in the education industry, who are teachers, wanting to switch careers to IT or the startup scene. And then, by fate, I guess, my co-founder and my CTO, Alex, he happened to be in Korea when I quit my job as an English teacher. So we kind of got together at this bar, and then we were talking, and then, we kind of, discussed like what are our past experiences and everything. And he was in tech for the past good 20 years back then, and I was in English education for a good like 6-7 years as well. So we got together and we kind of said, okay, let's try to do something together. However, education will be the first step of what we'll try to accomplish in the long run. Okay, so WE Coding has been in the industry for about good 4 or 5 years now already, and we have had a lot of students who come through our doors and left and graduated and got jobs in tech, in startups. And I think if I have to kind of prioritize and give a ranking of number 1, 2, and 3, number 1 would be obviously skills. I'm not talking about like, 5-year experience or 10-year experience or like PhD level experience of skills. Enough skills so that they can kind of soak in what they will learn as a programmer after their first job as well. So that kind of basic fundamental of skills and the ability and the aptitude to learn and soak in the new kind of skills that will come in their way inevitably. So that's kind of the skills that I'm talking about. And number 2 is all the students who graduate from our boot camp and from all other boot camps are all newbies. They've been in the A industry for 3 months or 4 months or 6 months. How good can they be? And obviously the hiring CEO or the hiring person obviously knows that. Hence, the attitude and the kind of attitude of learning or the wanting to learn or new challenges is also very important in a person's skills and the abilities. Because he will inevitably have to learn new skills or learn new languages or and meet new people and everything in their new job. And number 3, obviously, a good kind of, because nobody can work by themselves in any field. Well, in most fields. Hence, you would have to work with other people. And even if you're like a rock star, developer, who can solve all the questions by himself, but is too cocky or too kind of bossy or too kind of a bad person to work with, nobody would like to hire you because you will ruin the whole environment of the company and the team and etc. So the ability to cope with and work well in harmony with other people. So basically, being a good human being is also a big plus in the job scene as well. So skills. And then the urge and the wanting to learn, and also lastly, just being a good human being, and being a good team member as well. So again, over the past 4 or 5 years, we've been running the bootcamp, and also we've been running a startup as well, because this is our first company, at least my first company as a co-founder. And along the way, we've learned quite a lot as well, and we've looked at a lot of the companies and boot camps and education centers that do well and sometimes fade away. However, I do believe honesty in what we sell is one of the most essential things that a co-founder or at least the leading member should have in mind. Meaning that, of course, you have to sell a dream because you're a startup and you're selling a promise, basically. However, it's always better to undersay and over-deliver, I think, rather than oversay and under-deliver, basically. So that's one thing, and we try to keep it honest and modest in what we do. And we just don't want to just fly out fake numbers and saying, oh, all our graduates go to Google and whatnot. And also fundamentals as well. I'm sure Alex mentioned in the tech part of this interview as well. However, it's always not a too good idea to put all your eggs in one basket. Meaning that if you learn one specific, like any language, too specifically for 2 months or 3 months, which is a very, very short time frame, and you'll be stuck with that language basically, within in the job scene as well. And there's only a number of companies that are only wanting to hire this developer with one language. So if you have a good foundation of the overall kind of development mentality basically and the skills, with that kind of foundation, you'll be able to go to other languages and kind of become a more kind of person in demand, a better person in demand, I guess. And also at W Coding, we use the same office with all the students. Hence, we meet our students every day. And we may have long talks with them, or we just may have, hey, how's it going? What's going on with your life? How can we help you? And that's really big I think, in a business and a startup like us, like the personal connection. Also, we try our best, absolute best, not to leave our people behind. I think that's one of the reasons why we call ourselves a real boot camp, meaning that, even if there's somebody who is not following up as fast as other people, we don't just say, hey, you're just a bad statistic for us, so, we're not going to teach you. We try our best to get that person hired, or whatever that person wants from us. So we try to not leave people behind with our personal career services and mentoring and whatnot. And last of all, we're the only kind of global boot camp in Korea, at least, and one of the only few in Asia, I think. And we are the link kind of between the international scene and the Korean tech scene as well, making us very special in our market too. Sure. Yes, W Coding is a tech education company. However, we do have a very strong software development team, helping many international startups and SMEs in Korea and outside of Korea, either solve their tech problems, or helping them also, kind of start their businesses in Korea, or vice versa, start Korean companies wanting to start their businesses outside of Korea. Not only that, we are very involved in the Korean startup tech scene as well. And we work with various companies or agencies such as JobPass Korea, TalentX, which are all job recruiting or job matching platforms. We also work with coding NGOs such as Code Soul or Women Who Code, and etc. Making us a very interesting and very kind of player in the Korean and international tech and startup scene as well.
We put them all in a cage and we rattle it. No. After a couple things can happen. Those who are looking for jobs will obviously start that process of, refining their resumes, getting interviews, looking for jobs. Those who are not, we have students who go back to the US to the colleges if they're in a CS program. We have students that take our knowledge and parlay it into a tech company, or they're going to start a tech company or something like that. And so it really depends. Depends on the students. However, at W Coding, whatever you want to do afterwards is something that we're going to help you with. If you're going to be going into a new company with this tech, we'll help you, get the ins and outs of how to start a company. And, Kyle is a perfect person for that. Tons of knowledge for how to set up and run startups in Korea. If you want to go more into how to interview and what to expect during the tech interviews, we both can help, but it's certainly something that we can help you from those steps thereon. We also have a lot of startups that we are in contact with. So if you're looking for positions, we can see, are you a good fit for any of those? And so but a lot of it is going to be driven by the candidates themselves as to or the students themselves as to what they want to do. And so we're not going to push you okay, get a job now, man. Stats. Let's get you on the stat. We want to maintain our 99%. It's more, if you come to us, tell us what you want to do, what you want to get out of it, what your next steps are, and how we can help you and enrich your experience and get you to the next step. And we'll do what it takes to get you there.
And moreover, we're also humans as well. We're providing a service, of course, so we'll obviously officially try our absolute best to help you. But we're also humans with feelings and whatnot as well. So why I'm saying this is, of course, the students who are more eager and more desperate and more coming to us, asking questions and asking us for interviews, who are more enthusiastic and who are more kind of desperate for the challenge. Of course, we're of course kind of naturally inclined to help them out as well. So fate helps the ones who. What was the thing?
Squeaky wheel gets the.
So. On the 4th month, by standard, we provide students with mentoring, of course, and career counseling, of course, one-to-one kind of resume interviews as well, resume reviews and mock interviews, and we start off sending our students and basically for interviews with what they want, if it's tech jobs that they want. To the jobs that are in our very, very closest circle in Korea and in, outside Korea as well, because obviously being very, very active in the startup scene in Korea and elsewhere, we do have a lot of just kind of unofficial requests from many CEOs and CTOs who want junior tech developers who graduate from us, basically. And then, as I kind of previously mentioned as well, we do have official partners such as TalentX, which is also a matching platform specifically for software developers and startups, tech startups in Korea at least, and also this new startup called JobPass Korea as well, who are basically doing a similar thing with the international people in Korea and international companies inside Korea as well. So yeah, if it's jobs that they want, we help them through unofficial and official routes as well. But however, as Alex mentioned, some of the students, some of the graduates, they may want jobs, but they also want, they are kind of enthusiastic enough to try out their new idea as a startup as well. And we're very involved in that as well. And we've been through the circus several times with many partners and many kind of sister companies that we built through the years as well. So we can help them through that as well. Yeah. If it's kind of a emotional kind of a hiccup or a phase, that they're going through, obviously, kind of just getting them out for drinks and, for some Korean soju or beer or whatnot, with chicken and beer, is always kind of helpful to kind of boost the morale and kind of, keep them motivated and everything. And but however, you just gotta, I guess, just gotta keep on the challenge. Don't let failures kind of discourage you too much. Everybody's been there before. It's not a matter of how many times you succeed, but how many times you get up after you fail, I guess. And so that's kind of a little bit pep talk, I guess, that we help on a kind of emotional, unofficial kind of scene, off the records, I guess.
Yeah, I approach the entire job seeking process like dating. So it's the biggest fear, I think, for both dating and interviewing is no, right? Is rejection. And so the way to kind of manage rejection is, for one, you have to acknowledge it. Rejection is going to happen. It's going to happen more than not, right? It's not a 50-50 scenario where you get 50 yeses and 50 nos, unless you're a serial dater. But it's you just need that one yes. So even if you have 99 no's and that one yes, you still have a job at the end of it, right? And so you've succeeded. And so the expectations and setting the proper expectations to make sure that going in that it might be a long process, especially depending on the environment that you're going to be trying to find a job in. Are you going to try to find a job in, the outskirts of, some podunk, town in Korea as a tech job? You'll probably be looking for quite a while because there's not many companies looking for tech workers there. Versus, if you're going to be looking for too much money, even in Silicon Valley, if your expectations for salary are too high, then you might not find a job. But if you are able to temper or have a good level of expectations based around the environment that you are at, and are able to accept those limitations and those parameters, I think it'd be a little bit more realistic that the yeses will come sooner than later. And so the frustrations that come from job seeking is, it's really not so much you hear frustrations of like not enough people said yes, right? Because you only need one yes. You don't see frustrations like, oh, I'm really frustrated because these companies aren't really what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a very particular company, and these company, and my particular company doesn't exist. It's usually like the frustration is usually like nobody calls me back, or I can't find a job, and some of that is just getting through it, right? Just suck it up, look for that one yes. It's gonna come. Second thing you have to do is you have to adapt, right? As soon as you start getting lots of no's, you start asking your friends, like you go on a couple of dates and you get turned down, you start asking your friends, is it me? Do I smell bad? Do I look weird? Is there something I can do? Is it my dress? And so you're gonna have to, change it up and evolve over that interview process. It's gonna be something that's gonna be a give and take kind of thing through it. And you have to be open to that, right? But I do want to warn those who are looking for jobs that even though you're doing all this compromise, one thing you don't want to do is to become so desperate that you say yes to anything, right? I've seen a lot of abusive dating relationships, and I've seen even more abusive employment relationships. And if that experience of finding a job was really difficult and you got desperate and you said yes, it becomes that much more difficult to change the job afterwards, right? And so don't end up in that pit of being so desperate that you find yourself stuck. Instead, there are other ways to make yourself more marketable or more attractive to employers. And so that's a warning caveat, in terms of compromise when you are looking for jobs. Frustration is there, you got to evolve with the process, but there are some things that you should not compromise on.
But also, like, if you do meet that first job or that first, company that, that you like and you want to work with for at least like a couple of months or a couple of years, and, the company kind of is a good fit for you, in the other part, for the company's perspective as well, really, amazingly enough, switching jobs becomes really, really, like, quite easy. Not like really, really easy, but relatively like much more easy than finding your first job, in my experience. And we've had already in the past 4 or 5 years that we've been running the show. We had one of our like first batch or second batch, like 4 years ago. Those students, they're already like hitting like year 3 and year 4 in their careers already. And some of them switched jobs like a couple times already, like once or twice, or in some cases like even more than that. I'm not saying like switching jobs too frequently is good. However, what I am saying is, good job or a bad job, it relatively seems much more easier for them to, for most of them, to kind of hit the companies that they like more as well after having years of experience as well.
Yeah. Speaking kind of to that, interviewing is a skill. The more you interview, the better at interviewing you'll become. Whether or not it makes you a good employee, it's kind of irrelevant. But at least you'll be able to go into an interview with confidence, which is vital for a successful interview. And you won't, have the jitters. You'll be able to properly answer some of the questions that they have. You won't end up in some weird pitfalls. But those are things that we can go over after our program. But certainly there's the frustration, there's got to be a reason for it. And identifying that reason for frustration is important as addressing the frustration as well.
Yeah, and some of our earlier batches, like students, they're earning like way more money than us. So so yeah, there's always like hope out there, and like chances are there, and you just have to kind of meet the right company and like keep on the challenge, I guess.
Our boot camp?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have any advice for people who are going to join other boot camps.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but nothing's for free, like as it is for anything in life. Without pain, of course, there's no gain, and obviously, it's not going to be easy. I mean, I'm not going to lie to anybody. Nobody's going to, hire you, or like you won't be able to get a job with like no skills or something like that. So, you be ready to kind of commit and make the effort. It's not going to be given to you. You got to take it, and you got to earn it, and you got to kind of invest, and you got to dedicate yourself and your time and your skills and your emotions and everything. And people know. I mean, I can see even from a batch the people who are like more motivated and who are just kind of like kind of free riding along. And everybody else can see. They don't have different. Like most people have similar perspectives of a person or a batch. So you just gotta kind of try a little harder, and kind of give it like 110%, I guess. And try to kind of mingle with the group as well. But you gotta be prepared to commit yourself to it, at least for the good 3-4 months that you were with us.
Yeah, speaking back to the first point, we're your pit crew in terms of the racing analogy. We'll make sure you have the fastest car that we can engineer for you. We'll make sure that your tires are always fresh in every lap. We'll make sure you have all the strategies. We'll tell you where all your opponents are and your competition is. But if you keep running into walls, we can't help you, right? You have to still drive the process. And so so if you come to us thinking we're going to win the race for you, that's not true. We're not going to be out on the field holding your hand as you turn the wheels. That's got to be you, right? And so there's a limit to what we can do, but we will do our part as hard and as competently as possible. So that said, as you go through these boot camps, you've got to kind of gauge your expectations based on that. If you come in with a lot of enthusiasm, which is awesome, we'll help you, take advantage of that enthusiasm and put into a lot of effective and good ways of finding jobs. But if you come in without enthusiasm, without any kind of discipline, and without any kind of desire or vision beyond that, there's only a limit to. We'll help you on the straightaways, but on those turns, man, if you can't negotiate those turns, I don't know how we're going to win the race. So it's and that's, I think, true of almost any legitimate boot camp. There are boot camps who say, 99.6% of our graduates end up in a job paying, more than $80,000. Well, I can tell you those are probably in Silicon Valley, which, is why the figure is so high, and also the employment rate is so high. But secondly, it'd be interesting to see those statistics a year later. How many of those people didn't get fired or didn't make it past probation period? Did they just get the job because they have a relationship with this other company and they just force them to the company and they're like, okay, I can do A, but the company wants you to do B, and now you're stuck, right? You don't want that kind of scenario. And so, it's, I think that, that's something that in the boot camp process, that's something that you've got to figure out if that's something you want. Because the boot camp, really, you got 3 months, or depending on the boot camp, maybe soon more or less. In those 3 months, can you really become a high-level, successful developer? I don't know. It kind of cheapens the profession, for one.
So, can you learn, it's the same as, you learn Chinese for 3 months, can you become a Chinese teacher? Yeah, right. You can maybe teach Chinese to, kindergarten people, but come on, you got to be real.
But the important thing is, can you learn to learn? Can you learn to start picking up the skills? We will give you that kick in the butt, the right point in the right direction to make sure that you are in the right path to pick up all the experience that you need in order to become an effective employee. But it's, that's what I think in terms of W coding, what we try to push and try to make sure is that we give you all the tools to make sure that as a learner, your new career as a learner, can you learn? Can you pick up new skills? Can you learn new environments and new languages and new frameworks? And hopefully, that's something that through our program you're going to be able to pick up. So, like I said, not so much like the 3-month goal for us in terms of our vision. We are looking a lot longer as a long-term software developer to make sure you're going the right direction, so that those 3 months are as effective as possible to making sure that you are able to go beyond the 3 months.
Go to our website, wcoding.com.
Check out our courses. Check out whatever else we have on there in terms of news to find us. Kyle and I do programs every now and then, both online and offline to see, come meet us at an event, say hi. We won't bite.
Yeah, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, so, come and, follow us and, check out our events and stuff. And, we like talking about new business ideas as well, and just, tech ideas. So, always welcome.